You know, there are some places where you get asked soft questions, where it's hard to get excited about your own material because the questions are so soft. Not like that here.
Chicago is a global city now, and it's important that people in Chicago recognize we're a global city, because we are competing with not just major cities in the United States like New York and Los Angeles, Atlanta, competing with Tokyo and Beijing and Paris and London.
The very fact that the Chicago Council changed its name in the last several years to the Chicago Council on Global Affairs is emblematic, it seems to me, of that ambition, that this is a city that is connected to the whole world.
At the conclusion of World War I, a group of Chicagoans concluded that the United States might retreat into isolationism, and the Midwest was the center of that. They founded this organization to try to prevent that, to encourage the United States, by then already the dominant economic power, to play an active role in the world.
Especially in a global world, it's extreme. The more informed the public is, the better it is for our country.
We discovered that the people who needed to understand that Chicago was a global city were as much Chicagoans as people outside Chicago. And so the council took on that responsibility.
There is a tendency these days with all the global economic problems that countries become inward looking. And I hope the United States never becomes inward looking, because it has a very important role to play globally. And the work of the Chicago Council is to, enable a platform be there so that leaders, foreign leaders can come, Americans themselves can debate and discuss foreign policy and security issues.
In the last 20 years, with the speed of globalization and the degree to which communications and travel have made the world a much smaller place, I think that the premise on which the Council was founded is no longer questioned.
In the 21st century, an institution like this can no longer be focused exclusively on foreign policy traditionally defined.
The city of Chicago has a great deal to contribute. Particular interests in food, security, agriculture, on global issues, trends, the economy.
When Marshall Bhutan was hired as the president of the council in 2001, his vision was to have actually people here who would be doing work, and for us to have task forces on different public policy topics and put out reports on these types of issues.
The council provides a forum in which ideas are expressed and developed and generated. And that's what we call studies. We are not an academic institution. We are still a public education and involvement institution. And it centers on that particular way of bringing ideas to the table.
The task force that I was a part of was about the role of Muslims in America at the turn of the 21st century and how that dynamic could have an impact internationally.
When the council does put out documents about reforming domestic agriculture or about putting a priority on international agriculture development, people listen. People in Washington listen. People on the global level listen.
Today we have an initiative called Feed the Future that we have been implementing in more than 20 countries around the world, and that will help 18 million people move out of poverty and hunger, is in part a consequence of the Council's great work.
If you look at not just Chicago, but Midwest, there's so many economic ties into China. So the Council basically, a group of business leaders, government leaders, and put this on the radar screen for Chicago and the Midwest, and they did a tremendous job on that.
The community in Chicago, the business community in Chicago, is very much a part of the dynamic of the city. And the two come together very, very nicely. The Chicago Council provides opportunities for businesses to engage with heads of states and very important people from around the world. The business community likes that, wants that, and also likes being affiliated with an organization as prestigious as the Council.
There's a number of cultural sensitivities that you have to be aware of in a Latin, in an Asian, a European, African environment. The Council does that in an appropriate way that shows Chicago off at its best, enhancing our economic opportunity and adding to the diplomacy of the United States as a whole.
When I returned from Paris after a year studying there, I was 23 and I was looking for a way to expand and continue my global dialogue. And it was a great joy for me to find the Chicago Council.
My experience so far in the Emerging Leaders Program at the Chicago Council has been fantastic. It has exposed me to all kinds of leaders that come through the Chicago Council and has exposed me to them in very intimate settings.
The Council puts on about 130 events a year, and if you take out weekends and holidays, that really is more than one every other day. So it brings many, many subjects of great interest on the international scene and on the national scene to the people of Chicago.
I've been involved with the Council for this last 30 years and stayed involved with the Council because it does important work and it does it in a very efficient manner. That's a hard combination to get. And the Council helps change the world for the better.